Let's see. What should I do? And I will then do this. Yes. Let's see. And then that, and then we will do something here. Yes. Okay. I mean, it's a reaction about Formula 1, but IndyCar race have happened, and for the people that don't know, Josef Newgarden won the race. And then, Pat Award, Scott McLaughlin, Dan Will Power, Colton Herta, Alex Palou, Felix Urquist, Alexander Rossi, Scott Dixon, Rinus Wiki. Okay. I would say Marcus Ericsson could have more fun race. He got some problems and it didn't lead to any fun. And then someone more. Yeah, Christian Lundgaard didn't have a fun race either. Got oh my god, what's that called? The tire is gone. Tire puncher. Yeah, tire puncher. For some reason, don't know how, but he succeeded to get one in the start, and yeah, the race was more or less fun after that. And let's see, there's someone. It must be Linus Lundqvist that could maybe have a more fun race, but Grosjean, what's his name? Roman Grosjean ruined the race. Then what more fun? Marcus Armstrong they done a Lance Stroll and crashed out. Then someone, don't know what they did, but they maybe Stingray Rob got some problem. I think Christian Rasmussen didn't even start, I think, and then came out sometime probably before they had done a lap, but yeah, he had a fun start. And yeah, and I think Newgarden led mostly the race. So not that funny race, I would say. In my opinion, it was just a normal IndyCar race. So, but we will do something more fun. We will go to... Oh shit. Well, soon. After the... Minecraft is up again. There we have it. Minecraft. And let's see what we will be doing what we ended last yesterday. / last stream. And that was, we fixed this roof. But I think I will continue to maybe mining out this more. Yeah, probably. I need to get a sail touch, or I need to use this shovel more for stuff so I can start removing this. Maybe I should. Let's see. Yeah, sure, we do it. So can we finally making the water go away? But what we are getting some more snow. Let's watch the Autosport F1 2024 Audi Saudi Arabian GP review. The Red Bull machine powers on. Yep, and Mercedes is still bad. Oh, wait, we need sound.
Well, it's 2 for 2 for Red Bull and Max Verstappen, who continues to stamp his authority on the 2024 championship, taking the win, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And despite the drama happening within the team, the Red Bull machine continues to...
Yeah, the drama, the big drama that will make the Red Bull go down in flames.
to power on with their second 1-2 of the season. The race did prove to be slightly more interesting than Bahrain, with contrasting strategies, a safety car, standout performances, including an impressive F1 debut and cracking battle down in the mid-pack that helped Haas gain their first.
No, that was... no. The Oliver Behrman, yes. The Haas thing, no, that was the most boring thing ever. So, no.
Points. I'm Bryn Lucas, and joining me to discuss the second round of the championship out there in Saudi Arabia is our man John Noble, and back here in good old Blighty, it's Matt Q. Let's kick off with you, John. What is it like out there in Saudi right now? It looks like it's pretty empty from what I can see.
Yeah, track was busy obviously earlier on. It's now just gone midnight here, so a couple of hours after the race. Paddocks into pack down. Long 3 weeks on the road for everybody. I think everyone's a bit shattered tonight. But yeah, 2 races down, 2 Red Bull 1-2s. Might be the story of the season.
Yeah, Matt.
I år firar Miele 125 år. Upptäck alla våra jubileumsprodukter och kampanjer på miele.se.
Skip it!
I won't ask you what it's like at your house because it looks fairly quiet there, but let's go straight to this race then, and this 1-2 from Max and from his erstwhile teammate. It was a kind of role reversal from last year, wasn't it? A bit of a masterclass from Red Bull. With all the stuff going on inside the team, it doesn't seem to have affected them outside of the team in any single way. They're just getting on with business, it seems.
Yeah, I
Why
suppose
should they
if sort of bigger picture,
not
if you
do
want
that?
a spectacular season, then sort of this torpedo that's gone into the side of Red Bull with all the allegations and their pledging allegiances between the Verstappens and Marcos, maybe that was a way to destabilise the team. But just as, you know, you can't employ a new engineer and
Man, Mercedes do everything to try to pull Red Bull down. And they succeed with nothing. Man,
expect
that's
an immediate upgrade, there's a period of lag. I suppose there's a period of lag for any instability, so Red Bull are going to keep running away with it at the minute. But yes, maybe marginally more entertaining than Bahrain, so by the time we get to European races it would be absolutely mega if we keep...
I would say between Norris and Hamilton, because Hamilton is washed, yes. And then that Oliver Behrman almost out-qualified Lewis Hamilton, and also finish the race before him with more points. That's beautiful.
But it's very steady rate of improvement. But yes, otherwise almost a formulaic Red Bull 1-2.
Yeah, but a masterclass, though, is kind of how we're billing it, really, because they played an absolute blinder. I mean, Max has done it again. I can't remember the last time it wasn't Max that actually won. You know, I'm going to have to go back and have a look at my do some calculations. You probably know that answer just there. But he just seems to be completely at ease, and if he needs to, you know, pull in a slightly quicker lap, he can just deliver it if he needs in that moment.
Yeah, it's absolutely sort of metronomic. He can just pull it out when he needs to. I think there was that run between lap 22 and 27 where he got 4 fastest laps, 3 of which were in a row, because you know he can just turn it on when he needs to, and at no point did those fastest lap loop thought that he was risking it, and at no point did he then pay at the end of the stint for having absolutely rinsed his tyres. He is in total control and just sort of I don't know, you almost get the impression that he's sort of driving around chilling, and then if he needs to he can absolutely raise to any delta, but then can sort of, you know, drive around at 8 tenths, and that's absolutely enough at this point of time. He is in total control, as you said, Bryn, masterfully done.
Yeah, and John, I've just had a quick look while Matt was giving that beautifully eloquent answer there. So you have to go back 10 Grand Prix for the last time that Max didn't win. So it's 9 in a row now for him. And he's just looking so calm, so at ease, that he's already got his next World Championship sealed. It's done, surely.
Yeah, I think it would take a miracle. I think there's 2 factors here at play. One, the Red Bull is fantastic, but it seems the pack's a bit divided behind it. We've got Ferrari seem to be clear in second, and I think when things run, they should finish 3rd and 4th, varied the gap between Red Bull. And then you've got the kind of the trio behind of Mercedes, McLaren and Aston Martin. I think his form will fluctuate, you know, based on single lap pace, the long run pace, or getting the tyres switched on, or circuit characteristics. But just doesn't seem to be any kind of momentum to push on up towards Red Bull. Ferrari have got upgrades coming, but you can be sure as certain that Red Bull itself is going to bring stuff to improve that car as well. So at the moment, it's looking difficult. I mean, all we can hope is that potentially some circuit characteristics suit the Ferrari better, or there's a bit of luck that goes Ferrari's way.
Hopefully, Monaco and Baku and maybe, Saudi Arabia could be in that, but it wasn't. Could be a race where Leclerc win some race.
They get a bit of challenge. I think what's key is Ferrari have got to start putting Red Bull under pressure. If Max is in clear in front, he controls the pace, the deg's all sorted, cruises around, doesn't make a mistake, the win's a formality. So it's about trying to just find that little bit extra to put them under pressure.
And so what about his teammate then, John? Because Sergio won in Saudi Arabia last year. He would really have hoped to have got a victory here this year round, just to maybe quieten a few of the voices down. But, you know, another race, another second place. He's turning out to be the perfect wingman and the right person that Red Bull are going to want to have, because he's not rocking the boat, it seems.
If he can qualify on the front row,
like Jos Verstappen, so maybe Jos Verstappen will soon be removed, finally. Hype.
Can put Max under a bit of pressure and get some clean air, then I think, you know, he could potentially run him closer, not necessarily overhaul him. But I think 2 races now. In Bahrain he was stuck in the pack, and here he slid back, not helped by the early safety car and the pit stop and not firing the tyres up. So I think key for him is qualifying, extracting that supreme pace from these tyres on a single lap, which is not mastered as well as Verstappen yet. So I think that's our only hope of getting a battle at the front, is amazingly Red Bull doing a better job in qualifying and locking out the front row.
Yeah, which is an ominous sign. But Matt, if we look at the team that finished just behind, that's Ferrari. Only one driver really that was going to really challenge, I think, in Saudi Arabia, and that was Charles Leclerc, who had a pretty safe race. There was no real drama for him, and he showed what he could do. You know, coming home in 3rd, that's a decent result for him. Yep. And Ferrari seem to be cementing themselves as the 2nd best team of 2024.
Yeah, definitely. There's, you know, almost an element of consistency, which you couldn't say for Ferrari last year, and you also can't really say so far of the teams behind them. That Aston, Mercedes, McLaren gaggle looks like it's ready to sort of turn for every race. But I think Leclerc will absolutely take that as a smooth race. There's no 100-degree offset in brake temperatures as he had in Bahrain, where he was struggling to keep it on the island. I think sort of wider, I felt like we were robbed of something. Okay, Oliver Behrman, the narrative around him, which we'll get onto, was a key talking point of that race, a fantastic story. But what made Bahrain exciting was Sainz was so sort of fired up after having, he's got his grievance now that Hamilton's replacing him at Ferrari. He needs to put himself in the shop window, secure the best seat. So he was so aggressive, and we missed that. So I think as
so aggressive. Yeah, man, so much copium about Carlos Sainz, also. Holy shit.
Leclerc said, and this is the state of F1 at the minute, Leclerc in the World Feed interview is saying it's quite boring, and the interviewer is having to ask him about like his neck and the G-force, because the talking points about Charles Leclerc's race was so limited they had to sort of scratch around for some other topic. But yeah, it was a fine performance for Ferrari, but it'll be with the usual caveats that they're not a team, he's not a driver that wants to finish a distant second slash third, is he? So good, and also better than actually where sort of I think a few people thought they were at the end of testing, because everyone else has gone one way with their rear suspension, Ferrari have gone the other. Whether that was a sort of too safe a choice just for the sake of making the car nice to drive, but would it be fast? But that is obviously paying off, but not paying off handsomely, because they're still second fastest team.
Well, let's just quickly talk about his teammate then, because you've mentioned Oliver Behrman a little bit. Now, Sir Jackie Stewart, before he was a Sir, when he made his debut in South Africa in 1965, he started 11th on the grid. He went on to finish 6th. So Oliver Behrman not quite as good as Jackie Stewart. Is that what we're saying? No, jokes aside, John, over there in Saudi Arabia, it was a fantastic performance from Oliver Behrman. Incredible, the fact that he only got in the car, only knew a couple of hours before FP3. He had very little time to prepare in the way he would like. What is a consensus of opinion out there in Saudi about how he's done? Other drivers, what are they saying about him?
Sensational, I think, is the pretty brief summary of what everyone's saying. It was a brilliant performance. As Fred Vasseur said tonight, this wasn't a case of rocking up at Barcelona, that a track you've done thousands and thousands of miles of testing on, and you get 2 days of practice and into qualifying the race. It's the Jeddah street circuit, fastest street circuit we've got. Tricky conditions, easy to make a mistake. He came in late. I think as he walked the track on Friday morning, didn't know he was going to be racing for Ferrari, and was faultless. Qualifying, he didn't get through to Q3. I think his first run was aborted by the red flag, so he lost that in Q2. Made a mistake on his second run, and then missed out, by the tiniest of margins to get through to Q3. And I think the race was great. I mean, you think of everything that could have gone wrong, the mistakes he could have made, the errors, everything. I think Fred Vasseur was absolutely full of praise for him tonight, and just the way he pushed on at the end to make sure Lando Norris and Lewis finished behind him. So I think it's impressive. I think probably one of the more impressive F1 debuts we've ever seen.
Yeah, it was the youngest Brit to ever start a Formula One Grand Prix, the third youngest person to ever start a Formula One Grand Prix, and he started off that race and he was going toe to toe. He didn't look like he was holding back in any way. He wanted to get out there straight away, and he could have ended up, in a wall. He could have made a big mistake, but he didn't, and I think that's something that has impressed just from watching through the screens. I don't know what you think there, Matt, from your opinion watching on.
Yeah, stunning. Like, it's a really unforgiving set of circumstances and an unforgiving track, high downforce. I think we saw that sort of when he jumped in the car. It looked like Ferrari immediately bolted him on like a really understeery setup so he could get his iron a bit safer, and then with his run plan as well. And then so to accelerate through the weekend and fare how he did was really impressive. I mean, that move on Tsunoda into turn one, the sort of dummy, the switching left, diving down the inside, was sublime of any driver, let alone of a guy, a rookie. And I think with Oliver Behrman this season, I think with the context of like Hamilton going to Ferrari, so who will replace Hamilton at Mercedes, and obviously all the talk has been, or a lot of the talk before the latest sort of Red Bull chapter has been about Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So I don't know, I think Behrman was almost like the Tsunoda to Ricciardo, where he can stop that promotion by annihilating his teammate in F2, but he might not get it himself. You know, he'll go to a Haas before he goes straight into a front-running team. But hopefully that's sort of a, you know, a sit-up-and-take-notice performance, because he was mega and deserves plaudits. And okay, you know, when the grid is so tight, just missing out on Q3 is no mean feat. But then in terms of actually executing the race,
But to who? Was it Lewis Hamilton?
He was nigh on perfect, I thought. And I know we're saying this after, you know, quite a few people raved about Nick De Vries's 2022 Italian Grand Prix cameo, and then obviously he faded very quickly when he got his full-time F1 promotion. But I think there's a lot more here to be excited about, both in terms of age, the track that he's come in, how he actually went forward rather than was just like, you know, keeping people blocked in his mirrors. I thought, yeah, a really spot-on drive.
Yeah, it's much like how Liam Lawson did last year. He impressed when he got the opportunity, and Oliver Behrman's clearly done that. I think it's fair to say. What about if we look at him and look at Carlos Sainz? I mean, Carlos is presumably going to be back, John, in Australia, and he's not going to want to have any other time where he's not in the seat this season, is he?
No, the plan is that Carlos will fly home, I think, this evening. Then they'll evaluate when he goes to Australia. Fred Vasseur is full of confidence. He'll be fine. So he'll travel to Australia. They're still there. Behrman will be in Melbourne from the 2 weekends, so he'll act as the reserve there if needs be. But I don't think he'd be too upset to be back in Formula 2. I mean, I'd be quite intrigued to know how annoyed he was at having got his pole position for the F2 race and then getting pulled out and withdrawn from it, because he's also got a championship to fight for.
Yeah, I mean, that's also interesting, isn't it? There is always a yin and a yang going on here. There's ups and downs for poor Oliver Behrman, but I think, as we say, he's come out of this one. He's impressed a lot of people. Now, somebody who could have done with a decent race is Lance Stroll, and well, he clipped the wall on the left-hand side, and that shunted him straight off on the other side there. Matt, it wasn't a great time for him. He looked massively disappointed, as you'd expect, but it's almost like you could start seeing that he knew what the headlines were going to be in his head when he was sitting trackside.
Sympathy is ever so slightly limited. One, it was a really sort of amateur hour mistake, I'm afraid, you know, clonking the inside wall and then putting himself on a collision course with that race. And I think, okay, it's heat at the moment, we don't understand particularly the relationship, but when Lance Stroll is usually on the losing side of like the PR, you know, charm offensive, isn't he, for whatever happened with his trainer or just generally how he sort of conducts himself. I don't think a sarky radio message was necessarily the right response. What was it? It was something along the lines of like, can you make it to the end? It's like, no, I'm in the wall with some more colourful language. I thought that was a bit needless, but it was just fundamentally a really a clumsy error, you know, lapsing concentration, and it's bitten. We've seen it 100 times, you know, around a swimming pool at Monaco or whatever, and the same here again today. But, you know, credit to Lance, that looked like it was going to make the race really exciting, a safety car, a bit of jeopardy. We just needed someone else later on to trigger another one, so those people who pitted out of sync sort of were brought back into the race. So he tried his...
Yeah.
best.
The only thing that will make that crash interesting, or the early pit stop, if something more happened later, but it didn't. So it made the race more boring than what it could have been if it just was no safety car.
Spice up the race, but even that wasn't enough.
Yeah, I'm sure he did it absolutely on purpose just to give us something else to talk about. But as you hint there, I mean, it brought out the safety car, and we saw then a big flurry of activity with loads of cars going in and changing their tyres, and we saw a couple of four, in fact, stay out on track, including Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton. They both stayed out on track, didn't change their tyres over, and you thought, okay, maybe if there's another safety car, this could really play into their hands. But Matt, it didn't.
No, and sort of listening to how Hamilton and Norris, who were like the sort of leading guys of that counter strategy, they said it was a bit of a calculated gamble. So, you know, with the congested pit lane and sort of the calculations, they knew that they were going to get blocked in. You saw that with Leclerc. You know, Red Bull did a 2.4 and 2.7 second pit stop in a double strike. Leclerc was 5.3 because he had to sit and wait for a few cars to go by. That was the risk that was also facing Norris and Hamilton. So they stayed out, and then I think, particularly according to Hamilton, they were basically banking on another virtual safety car, another full safety car to sort of offset it and bring them back into the race. But as we know, that didn't happen. So they were sort of left victim of running longer on those tyres. And although they showed good pace to come back through, we're sort of well aware coming into this race it's not a track where it's an abundance of overtaking, and it was just sort of too little too late. They fell victim of it. But I suppose it gave us something to watch and hope might unfold in a spectacular way. But yeah, they're just short of someone else dropping it in a wall or another, plastic bag blowing onto the track away from it working. But
John, they strapped on the softs, both Mercedes and McLaren, with Lewis Hamilton and with Lando Norris respectively, and they didn't seem to get a huge advantage by being on the softs with other people on quite old hard tyres there. So let's just focus on Mercedes for a minute. I mean, George Russell was finished ahead of Hamilton in both these races, and
that's
seems to have got a handle of the car a little bit better. But what's going on at Mercedes? I mean, what's the pit? What's the hole they keep falling into?
I think they've got something fundamentally they don't understand happening with the car.
Again,
we spoke to Toto Wolff tonight.
Third
It was
time.
obvious this weekend that they're losing almost all their time in high speed. The car's pretty much a match for its closest rivals in medium and low speed. Not so much, but in high speed corners, Toto Wolff basically explained that the figures it's getting from the CFD and wind tunnel in terms of the downforce being produced isn't matching itself in real life. They don't quite understand what the phenomenon is. It's not purely down to the bouncing problem, because they've got bouncing, but I think a lot of other teams have got bouncing. So I think there's going to be some big head scratching Brackley this week just to try to understand what's happening. They think there are strengths to this car. They think they have made progress, but all that progress is being wiped away by this high speed problem. So something probably deep fundamental related to kind of aero platform and ride heights and how the diffuser's reacting and how the car rests on its suspension as it hits those high speeds. So a lot of work to do, I think, before they can feel they can move forward. Because I think they're not in a position to challenge Red Bull. They're behind Ferrari, and they're not even really at the front of that kind of trio of teams.
Nope.
Bringing up, kind of being the third fastest overall.
What's the mood like though? I mean, you're out there, you get to see the body language of the drivers, you see the body language of the team principal and all the people inside the garage as well.
Super happy.
Because this is a team that shouldn't be where they currently are, but they've been where they currently are for what seems like an age now, and they're not seeming to be getting anything sorted.
Yeah, Toto Wolff was asked tonight why he seemed so calm, that this is a team that was so used to success, and they've been through the mill the last 2 years, and deep emotions when they've redone concepts. So it seems calm this year. He was asked about it, made a joke about the Valium dose has gone up this year, which is keeping him much calmer. But I think in reality, they know the situation they're in. They've got some confidence in terms of...
They know. This is the third year. Oh wait, 2022, then 2023, yeah, 24. Yeah, it's the third year. What do you mean they know what to do? Man, the copium.
Where they feel the progress has been made, and I think they've got some confidence from having dug themselves out of holes they've been in the last 2 seasons. So I think it's just this calm, measured approach. There's no benefit in this business for getting too emotional and shouting and screaming and banging your fists and hoping it gets better. This is about physics, it's about numbers, it's about work.
It is. So why take it so long to get it right? Red Bull did it first time, they did it the second time, they did it the third time. Mercedes had done not one time yet.
Working through the problems and addressing them, and I think that's exactly what's going to be going on in the Brackley factory. This week, try to get to the bottom of what's going wrong with this car.
Well, let's turn our attention to the other aspect.
What will you say if the next race will be the same? Oh, they didn't. they need to do it again.
Of that tyre strategy, or another person involved in that tyre strategy, that's Lando Norris. Well, Matt, I'm going to come to you on this one, because over the first 2 Grand Prix, it's 1 each between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, finishing ahead of each other. So that's good from a driver's perspective. You know, they're kind of working quite well, it seems. But Lando Norris appeared to jump the start, didn't he, today, and didn't get a penalty. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I can give you the FIA's thoughts there, go for a bit of fence sitting, which is that we all saw, you know, him lurch forward and then stop again, and that wasn't a jump start. And those with a long enough memory might remember Valtteri Bottas at the 2020 Hungarian Grand Prix, and I think there was also a case of Vettel doing similar in Japan. And basically they've got, you know, it doesn't matter what your eyes see, they've got a transponder in the track and a transponder in the car, and the FIA have said that's not recorded a jump start. That doesn't mean it's broken by any means, it just means that they have certain parameters, certain measures, certain tolerances, and Norris, despite sort of rolling forward and then stopping, he hasn't sort of passed those to constitute a jump start, even though we all saw it. I mean, you do see it a few times when people sort of go from neutral and get gear, they lurch forward, but that doesn't constitute it. I think Norris has just taken it to the extreme. I've tried badgering, but we don't know like quite how close they were, whether it is, you know, a millithousandth or whatever they're measuring of a yard away from it. But no, he's fine, escapes it without a slap on the wrist.
Beautifully put there, Matt. And actually, John, when we were watching it, it was almost, it came back to bite him, because it almost looked like he bogged down, because he went and he stopped and his reaction was then affected by it. So actually it hampered him more than helped him.
Yeah, because you're so focused on your preparations to get away. You know how hard it is now to overtake, especially this season. I think one of the consequences of, we haven't got much tyre degradation, and I think the cars are now so competitively close that there isn't delta between the cars. So
yeah, they're so yeah, sure, they're really close. That's why Max won. Then Sergio Perez P2 and Leclerc couldn't do nothing. I mean, the only time this close talk is right is with Aston Martin, McLaren and Mercedes. So
the racing's not as close as it is. If you fall into the pack during the race, it's much harder to come forward unless your tyre deg is miles better than anyone else, which isn't really the case in that pack. And the last thing you want to do is to go forwards, start panicking, dump the clutch late, wheel spin and fall back. So I think he was probably pretty happy it didn't cost him stacks and stacks and stacks, and B, delighted that the transponder didn't pick anything up.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, there you go. Delighted, I'm sure. He did manage to escape, but he also escaped without somebody going up his rear end as well. So that's, that's a bit of luck too, because he did seem to get a bit delayed off the start. Now let's move on to somebody who, wow, we don't often talk Haas, do we? We only talk about them when it's something controversial happens. And what do we get from Haas, Matt, out there today? A K-Mag masterclass?
No,
definitely not. He got 2 penalties. It was, it was, again, so I feel like I've come back to this theme loads in this video, but it was good for making the racing slightly more interesting. Think, what is he doing? But it was pretty shambolic. And to the point poorly executed in terms of, passing off track, getting a penalty, collision penalty, but also poorly executed as then he's got a broken Williams behind him with Alex Albon, who's still plainly faster. So I thought, if I was doing the Autosport driver ratings, I think Magnussen would be going home with the wooden spoon after that one. Depends how you rate Lance Stroll's egregious error, actually. But yes, not a great one. I suppose it did give us that good battle for 12th, which was like downright.
That was not a good battle. It was the most boring battle ever.
Quite entertaining, whichever way you cut it. That in itself was a good battle.
It's like saying oh man, you're sad. It's calling the battle between Norris and Hamilton was a good battle. Nothing happened.
But the fact it is a main talking point, and that with the greatest respect to that team, that Haas is a talking point on one of these like press aid videos is a damning indictment of the entire race, I fear.
Oh, John, are you not going to give the K-Mag a bit of love?
No, I thought it was great fun. I think I can imagine, sure he put himself in a place where the result was out of the question because of the result, but the team knew that if he could back the pack up it could give Hulkenberg the space he needed for the pit stops. This was about helping taking one for the team, basically. We know that people have called the Haas the new Williams in terms of super fast in a straight line, not so great in the corners, and Magnussen did it to perfection. Backing off in the twisty stuff, making sure he got a clean exit onto the straights to keep everyone back as much as possible.
So his perfection is to just be slow. Fast enough to not be overtaken, but slow enough to ruin the race for everyone else. I mean, maybe he should try to just be fast.
I think he would have absolutely loved those laps, and I'd like to have seen the reaction of the cars behind him when, as soon as Hulkenberg had done his pit stop, come out in front, Magnussen suddenly finds the 1.5 to 2 seconds that he was blocking everybody earlier. So I thought it was great fun. Sure, he should be fighting for points himself, but I think he'll have quite enjoyed that.
Well, it's just nice, isn't it, that we're getting to speak about Haas. I think at the start of this season we thought they're probably going to be at the back of the grid, but they're doing slightly different things. Well, thank you very much to Matt, who's joined us from over here in the UK, and for John, who's out there very late at night in Saudi Arabia. And thank you to you, of course, for watching. And don't forget, we've got a couple of weeks, 2 weeks off now before the next Grand Prix in Australia. Up nice and early for that one. And, of course, we'll bring you all the news when it happens, as it happens. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Yeah, that's quite good. Anything interesting or fun? Oh shit, go away. Go away. Then we have our next reaction. The P1 2024 Saudi Arabia Grand Prix race review. P1 podcast. Let's see, will they bring anything interesting?
Hello everybody and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. Yeah, we're back. Race 2 of a 24 race season. No, I'm joking. I actually had a good time despite Max Verstappen dominating from essentially lance to flank, but we had a little Norris lead for a little while. You never knew if there was going to be 7 safety cars to change the complexion of the race. But yes, Tommy, we're going to talk about Saudi Arabia and we're going to reflect on some key moments. There were some interesting things to keep an eye on. So lots to still talk about.
Yeah, things actually happened in this race. We discussed it on Twitch, saying that it's actually a pretty decent race. I mean, our expectations are unbelievably.
Yeah, let's not preface this with this was a decent race, because I know for a fact people will be like, absolutely not. What are you saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that it was actually a decent race in this 2023 era that we've kind of had. Basically, it feels like the same season, you know what I mean? Since then, the sport has changed quite a bit. So this, I'd say this was actually an alright race, because things happened. There was enough to distract us, really, from... I know it wasn't the greatest race in the world, but at least things did happen and go on unlike the previous race. So it wasn't the be-all and end-all.
It certainly wasn't, and we'll get into all of that very shortly. First and foremost, I need to shout to you about the P1 live show tickets that we are doing in Cambridge, Bath and London. I know for a fact that Bath has only a few tickets remaining. I think Cambridge is close behind, and then London would love to see you there as well on the 14th. So it's 11th, 12th and 14th of April. If you want to come along, please do. Right, let's start with my most memorable moment, and it has to be Oliver Behrman's drive. Because it needs to be spoken about, it has been spoken about, the boy from Chelmsford, as Crofty kept saying over and over. Behrman finishing P7, rocking up on the Friday.
I mean, the only one he can actually be happy for, because Lewis Hamilton will not do anything good. He will just keep being washed.
Having a practice session in a car he's never driven, in a series he's not, obviously he had a go in the Haas, hasn't he? But realistically, he's never driven Saudi in a Formula 1 car. lots of things to learn, and he was utterly impressive. To finish P7, which was just phenomenal. He showed like he was really unfazed more than anything, and I would like, I always like to call it having the minerals, and he definitely had both vitamins and minerals in this particular Grand Prix weekend. Didn't even have the first 2 practice sessions, and he was, and I think Charles Leclerc actually said after the race, sort of reflecting on Oliver Behrman's performance and saying that he remembers watching him in the garage on Friday, and after about 3 laps he was like, oh my god, he's already on it, getting close to the walls and stuff like that. So if you're impressing Charles Leclerc, you know you're doing something right.
You're going to get jealous, even more jealous of Ollie Behrman now, impressing Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, hasn't called him babe though, has he yet? So it's fine.
Yeah, amazing performance from Ollie Behrman to get points. I think the most impressive thing, there'll be people that
he ended the race before Hamilton.
Go, so some people going, well, he's in a Ferrari. It's like, yeah, but he didn't do any of the Friday practice running. It's a daunting track. We've seen other drivers spinning off. One of them crashed into the wall. It's a very difficult circuit, and he's not made.
Okay, but who did that? Lance Stroll. Okay.
A single mistake.
Stop
he wasn't ever going to be
with this washed
beating
opinions.
Charles Leclerc. But the fact that he's scored a point, he's finished ahead of Norris and Hamilton. Like, it's a very impressive debut, and it was no mean feat what he did. The fact that he just looked ice cool. Like, he's driving a Ferrari. We've spoken so many times about the pressure of being a Ferrari driver, and he had to do that on his debut with no practice, 18 years old, and he didn't make any mistakes. I think that's the most impressive thing.
To do a race start for the first time ever in a Formula One car in the actual situation that he was in, and do pit stops, or a pit stop, because one-stop races, woo. But for those people that say, oh, Ollie Behrman's in a Ferrari, that's what you expect from him, are you serious?
Man, actually true. Would he ended up there if he was in a Ferrari or not? Would he done a better job if he was in a Haas? No. Yes.
Please point me to the part of that Ferrari where it drives by itself. Please. Tell me.
So he will finish the same place with the Williams, Haas, Alfa Tauri?
How he goes around Saudi Arabia with all the assists that the Ferrari apparently brings him. No. Just put some respect on an 18-year-old's name. That is such an impressive debut performance. Of course, qualifying, I'm sure he could get through to Q3 and start a little bit higher up. But once he got into clear air after getting past Hulkenberg, he apparently lost like 9 seconds overall to Leclerc. He finished just over, I think, 2.7 seconds behind Russell for 6th, and he managed to just withstand the pressure from Norris and Hamilton behind, both on soft tyres. Imagine getting that radio call. Yeah, so we've got Lando Norris and 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton bearing down on you around one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar. For people, it's such a lazy view for someone to say he's in a Ferrari. He should be doing that. It's like you need to have a concept of the sport and what these drivers are doing.
Like you don't have.
Yeah, I'm sure it's exactly the same people that diminish everything that Max is doing at the moment, and those kind of people.
Oh no, he does have
drivers
autopilot.
Oh, does he? Okay, fair enough. But yeah,
sure.
It's really good. The fact that other drivers, like say, made mistakes, he didn't. Pace was.
Ricciardo did one mistake. You can say maybe, but the biggest mistake was Lance Stroll. Come on.
It's good. I thought there's so much that he had to have in that race where he started on a different compound. He was caught up in the mix of other cars and things like that. He so easily could have clipped a front wing at the start, or doing your first pit stop, and it was a bit crazy in the pits because everyone obviously pitted behind a safety car as well. There was a lot for him to deal with in that race, and Saudi of all circuits as well.
It
Just
was
respect.
Those first few laps were pretty tense, I would say. Behrman obviously he ran wide, didn't he, on lap 1, and you're thinking, hold on, is Is the whole scenario getting to him a little bit? And he did have a very close moment with Tsunoda, which I think he was quite lucky to get away with. But apart from that, he sort of settled into the race. And yeah, what a performance. Question from Game Changer 08. Does Behrman already deserve an F1 seat for 2025? Or has to be a most likely team for him?
Yes,
and eventually he will replace
Magnussen
Lewis at Ferrari in a few years' time? Okay, all right.
Out.
Let's give it a second here. Let's just take a deep breath. I mean, I said even after his practice performance in the Haas in Abu Dhabi last year that he has already shown that he's got the speed, and I think this proves that he's also got everything else that you need to become a Formula One driver. No doubt, like that there is no more difficult situation for a driver than to have one practice and dive into a Grand Prix weekend at last minute. I think it works in his favour a little bit in the sense of he doesn't have all these days to mull it over, like, oh my, I'm going to drive a Ferrari. So I guess in that sense, if you have a particular personality that can deal with that, it's fine. So for Behrman, it obviously was. And yes, I think that, K-Mag, as much as I'm going to probably praise you in this podcast for being an absolute maniac, he probably should replace Magnussen for next year because Behrman has shown that he's got the speed, and I think he'll only get better if he gets a season under his belt.
Yeah, I think this question is a classic case of, while Behrman did unbelievably good, deserves all the plaudits. Yeah, beat Hamilton. Deserves all the plaudits that he gets. I do think people need to maybe calm down a little bit because let's not forget, Nick De Vries was the super sub, and I'm not suggesting for a second that Ollie Behrman's going to go into Formula One next year and do as bad as Nick De Vries did, but it just shows that you kind of need to take a step back and not put piles and piles of pressure that he's the next Lewis Hamilton and oh my god, yeah, we should replace Lewis at Ferrari when he leaves.
Is it better
that
than
is such
Kevin
an
Magnussen?
extreme thing to say already. He's done a fantastic job. He did everything he needed to do. I think the biggest takeaway for me is it shows that there's so many young drivers waiting in the wings. We've seen it now. We've seen it with Liam Lawson, who did a fantastic debut, and barely a few months ago we were all saying, why isn't Lawson getting the drive? This is ridiculous. And now it's Ollie Behrman. It just shows that there are so many of these drivers. You've got to think, what could have
so many drivers. Okay, can you bring everyone up?
Drugovic done if he'd have been able to drive instead of Stroll at the start of last year? All these drivers just deserve a chance, and they're not getting it, and that is.
So are you talking that he should get Kevin Magnussen's car or not? I'm confused about this washed opinion.
It's the frustrating thing, I think, that can be taken away from this, that there are so many drivers out there that can do a good job, but no, the grid has to stay exactly the same.
Well, it's a sport that, Formula One is incredible, but its biggest limitation is that they're the 20 best drivers in the world.
But they're also...
Man.
Ursäkta, du glömde din väska på
Time,
kaféet.
go away.
Oj, tack snälla.
Varsågod. Gör det som känns bra i magen. Valio.
No. Oh my god, one more. Skip it.
And that's it. You think of football, you think of most sports. You play for a team, and there's loads of teams, and there's thousands of professionals, taking part in the sport. Whereas this, it is 20, and then there's a lower division which you can't even take part in if you've won it or whatever, and it wouldn't be good for your career anyway if you're waiting on the side. Oh, I'll go race an F2. Why not? It's
all
so
about
frustrating.
timing as well. It's the sad reality, and it's a horrible thing to think about. But that could, and I hope it's not, but that could be Behrman's only ever Formula. I really hope it's not, but it could be. But it could be. It could be.
Opened up that door enough.
No, but you say that, and then someone starts smashing it in F2, and oh my god, they're the next best thing. Oh, we need to get him. He definitely deserves a seat. And it's just
Behrman's
changing.
Still in F2.
Well, yeah. But it's
and
changing
he was on pole
all
for
the
that
time.
and had to withdraw.
Yeah.
Poor bloke.
Yeah, but it changes all the time, doesn't it? So it's just it's about having those breaks, and I'm glad he has, and I think it's shown that there are drivers that deserve to be there, and that is the frustrating thing.
So yes or no to Kevin Magnussen should lose his seat to him?
And that can, and they show that they can do it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to share about your controversial take on this that you kind of mentioned as well around F1 cars these days?
What, being potentially a little bit easier to drive than normal, that essentially he's not done months of training for it, and that comes down to the fact that I'm not saying it's easy, because he deserves the plaudits for anyone thinks I'm saying that, but
you are doing that what you complained people did earlier.
It does show that I guess these Formula 2 drivers can step in, because we've seen it with De Vries, we've seen it with Lawson. They can come in mid-season and do a really solid job. It's happened 3 times now in a row.
But they can't.
But again, maybe it says more about the calibre in Formula 2 as well at the moment, and there's all these drivers that serve seats.
P1 Patreon member Shikau. Why Norris and Hamilton on fresh softs couldn't catch up to Behrman and others on old hards? Maybe not the best structured question, but yes, why did they not catch Behrman? Well, they both went on to slightly used soft tyres, and I guess the differential wasn't massive. I think that they had on the graphic that it was 1.1 seconds between softs and hards, but there's so many factors within that it's like, well, yeah, but the softs were a little bit used, and you've also got the fact that there's different conditions and there's lighter fuel loads, and I'm a little bit confused as to how they didn't catch as quickly. But then again, Saudi, as you mentioned, Tommy, in the Twitch watch along, there's not as much as there's 27 corners. A lot of them are fast and they're kinks, and there's not a huge amount of areas for drivers to take advantage of extra grip. I would say maybe in that sort of middle part of the lap where it's really close to the walls and stuff. But a lot of it is very, very high speed. So yeah, I'd probably say that, but even then, the delta was supposedly going to be 1.1 seconds. So perhaps those sort of 5-6 laps that Norris and Hamilton had already taken out of those softs before going on to them just took off that edge, that sort of half a second extra that perhaps they would have had they whacked on fresh softs. Because they were still catching, but not at the rate
really
that
slow.
Either of us expected.
Yeah, they're catching, but it wasn't enough. Like I said, when you've got heavy braking zones or more twisty technical sectors, you're gonna catch up a lot more because you can brake a lot later, you can take so much more corner speed. But like you said, when it's flat out kinks for 20 of the 27 corners, pretty much, you're not gaining a huge amount. It doesn't. Again, not that I wanted them to catch him, because I'm glad he actually kept that position, because it made for an incredible story. But does make me wish that that they maybe was a bigger advantage, because that's how you get overtaking and excitement, and what we saw sort of back in the mid 2010s and things with the Pirelli tyres. But alas, one stops.
Yeah, one stops. I guess it's not having that spread of compound, and it's also about the tyre allocation and not having a fresh set of softs available to you. You actually have to use one that you've used previously in the qualifying session or whatever. So yeah, unfortunately that is the state of Formula 1, but one day maybe they will give it a go. Just do a little C1, C3, C5, see what happens. And it's the greatest race of all time, and then we have them in every single Grand Prix.
Nope.
Okay, Tommy, hit us with your most memorable moment.
My most memorable moment is the Hasta plan from Haas and K-Mag, basically using K-Mag,
so boring,
his ability of being Kevin Magnussen and causing a bit of chaos to their advantage, because he drove quite recklessly, got penalties, and then realised that, well, actually, it's impossible to overtake, which is a rant for later in the podcast, so stay tuned for that one. And Kevin Magnussen was able to essentially hold up the whole field, go sometimes, even 2 seconds a lap slower, couldn't get past, and it just allowed Nico Hülkenberg to basically have almost a free pit stop by the end of it. And It's something we've seen in Formula One before. This is maybe the most extreme example I remember in recent years of this happening. But they played it well because it's a team sport. I'm sure Haas are very happy that they've got a driver that would agree to do that. Because
so you should break the rules.
Essentially sacrificing his own race, really, and his performance, just knowing that they could get a point on the board. And it was a great decision from Haas because it just completely opened up, and you wonder why more teams haven't done it before, particularly likes of Monaco and stuff.
Yeah, with the lower place team.
So people should do that.
You know, I'm not going to say it's going to become a problem, but K-Mag and just letting him off the leash and going, K-Mag chaos, that's what I've ordered. Let's see what you can do. And of course, you know, he racked up 20 seconds worth of penalties very early on, so his race was done. And then fair play for him to take it on, you know, him and Haas. I don't know who obviously made the decision, but I'm sure K-Mag getting that information and then being able to quite cleverly defend and slow down. It was, you know, it's not like it just does it itself. K-Mag was very clever in the way in which he deployed his battery, made sure that he was really quick out of the final corner so that, you know, Ocon, whoever it might have been, couldn't get enough of a run to make the move into turn one. And I loved when we were looking at his rear wing, looking back at Ocon, I think at the time, and he'd had, you know, a reasonably good first couple of corners, a bit too good actually. And you hear him come off the throttle before anywhere near the braking zone, so that Ocon's right behind him again as he goes into the corner, and then just goes 2 seconds slower than he can do in that first sector. Absolute cinema. Genuinely, yeah. I thought it was really quite fun to watch. Some people are like, oh, it goes against the spirit of the sport. But for me, I found it entertaining. And
I mean, you must be. I mean, Max do it also. He drives so he become lost, and then he make everyone else slow in the behind. Isn't that also super funny to watch?
You know, thankfully that was one of the only bits that we could. Well, not thankfully. I mean, thankfully it came up as one of the most entertaining parts of the race.
No. For P12.
Yeah, and you know, I had a lot riding on this as well because I was backing my boy Hulkenberg. So, K-Mag did a great job with that. We will then get on to his penalties now, actually, with a question from Formula Latest. What do you think about the second K-Mag penalty? It seemed really harsh to give him 10 seconds for that. So for some people that may not be aware, and to be fair, I wasn't aware going into this weekend, around the sort of baseline penalties that have changed going into this year. So the drivers have kind of voted and wanted this to happen, where things like contact and leaving the track and gaining an advantage, like K-Mag did, where he made the overtake, went off the track and then carried on, those penalties are now penalised harder than they were before. Usually it was 5 seconds. You remember Fernando Alonso saying to Jolyon Palmer, 5 seconds, it's a yoke. Classic Monza team radio. Well, it's now 10 seconds. And for me, you know, penalties will never please anyone, but I think that's worthwhile, especially because it then will de-incentivise, if that's a word, unincentivise, that's the one, drivers to do that, you know, to break.
But they didn't. He kept going. And he ruined the race for everyone else. But what do you mean? You're so
take the rules and be like, screw it, I'll just do that, carry on, take the 5 seconds and extend. Now it's 10 seconds, and you have to really weigh up, is that actually worth it?
It was. He made Hulkenberg got a point. You're so washed.
Because I think a lot of the time it won't be, especially if this is in the midfield.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is last year with Sergio Perez and Alex Albon in Singapore.
Well, Sergio Perez got something today also. Did nothing, right?
Where essentially Perez steams down the inside. It's not a clean move, but he gets a 5-second penalty, and then of course he's in a Red Bull, so he's got such an advantage. He can pull 5 seconds away. It's funny that people say this is a bit harsh for 10 seconds. Now in the midfield, yeah, you go, this is the whole thing with penalties and how you judge it based on what actually happens, because you know for a fact, and I said this in our watch along, that Max Verstappen or almost like what he did in Vegas, where he broke the rules, got a penalty, and he went, well, that's fine, I'll just stay ahead then and pull a gap. And that then people were going, well, it should be 25 seconds or whatever.
It should be for every lap you lead.
But when it's in the midfield, like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, can you lose you a lot of time? Does make me think, and maybe we always say this and maybe it doesn't happen, but it does set a precedent that Formula One teams can essentially, that you can go for a dive bomb that's never really on, cut the corner, and then you're ahead, and then it's worth it to back everyone up for your teammate. I joked in a social clip that Magnussen might as well just cut turn 1 at Australia, back the whole field up, take the penalties again, because it's really hard to overtake.
What a fun sport.
It's hard to judge, because for this 10 seconds we're going, oh, that seems a bit harsh, but it has a point, because I don't think Magnussen's overtaking Yuki Tsunoda anywhere else on the track, and essentially he overtook him illegally, stayed ahead of him, and then just blocked him the whole race. So it worked.
Yeah, it worked, and what a fun sport to do. I mean, is that how people should win? Perez should have crashed in Hamilton 2021, make Max win even more easily.
It did work. It worked for Hulkenberg. It didn't obviously work for Magnussen because he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
But I think that this doesn't become a thing purely because I think a lot of tracks this doesn't work, especially if Saudi you can't really overtake in a lot of places, and then as long as Magnussen gets a decent run with good straight line speed, then he was okay. I don't think every team can do that. Only teams that boast great straight line speed. So Williams will be writing this one down and going, yep, that's James Vowles. Yeah, okay, cool, let's do that. Absolutely. You can't really do it in Monaco because there's nowhere really to cut. So maybe the chicane, actually.
The chicane.
You could go out
straight
the tunnel,
over the chicane
straight
on that one.
on.
Boom.
Love that. Win the race. Yes, I think that I'll have to be careful, but I think it is very track specific, and it's such a unique situation. I think.
Yeah, and why should you do it ever?
That you had an Alpine, for example, that basically you would have been faster to get out and walk, trying to get past Magnussen for a while.
Yeah, it was the dream for Magnussen that it was a front of it, of all the cars you want at the front of the DRS train. Behind you is the Alpine.
If it had been Albon, then with no damage, he would have flown past and probably even scored a point, maybe. So. I think it was just the situation that brought itself there.
Boring situation.
And K-Mag took full use of that. Question from F1 Pharrell. What do you think about the decision of Lando's jump start?
Axe Dark Temptation Body Spray.
Herrgård, präst eller grevé, vilken ostklassiker är du?
Stop it.
Which wasn't a jump start, apparently. I don't know. I still don't understand really what's gone on there, because he's moved into grid box whilst the lights are coming on, which is against the rules. But we've also seen other drivers moving around the grid box. But I believe, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they would be maybe moving around before the lights come on, because he moved, but that was him just adjusting in his grid box, wasn't it? So different situation to the lights coming on. Norris went. It clear as day, he has left his grid box as well, stopped, and then carried on again, and obviously didn't get a great start. So the only reasoning I've got here for that is that the FIA have gone, well, he hasn't actually gained an advantage, no penalty. But how I always thought of it was, if the sensor goes off, you get a penalty no matter what. Like, done, stand done, see you later, cheers. So very surprising. I thought that was going to be a penalty given to him almost immediately.
Me too. I think there should be some kind of... I think Formula One as a sport, particularly as it's kind of trying to appeal to all these new Formula One fans, that being said, we've been watching it for years and years and years and decades, and meant to no wheel. And we don't even understand why this is a thing. So there should be some kind of... I feel like it's F1's duty to sort of explain to fans why, because you look at that and from face value, it's a jump start all day long. And in other sports, these kind of things happen, and you go, well, it can be explained. It'd be like, oh, well, this person's here, so that's why it's done. Whereas in Formula One, it's just like, no, don't worry, mate. It's not a penalty. Okay.
Yeah, we can see with our own eyes. We can see with our own eyes that this happened, and I'm actually watching Sky's explanation of it right now, live on the podcast. So I'm going to see what Anthony Davidson says. We can stay tuned with this. On each grid box, there is a sensor. Yeah, cool. So he points to a line where his wheels are clearly over. Oh my God, so it appears the sensor wasn't working. That's what Anthony Davidson reckons. So it didn't detect him moving, which makes perfect sense. But then, you use common sense. You go, hello, we are the FIA, we can give penalties.
Yeah, right. Just to do a really extreme example of that, a driver, say, like, obviously they wouldn't do this because they wouldn't know it wasn't going to work, but say the pit lane speed detector isn't working and one of the drivers flies down the pit lane at 200 miles an hour. It's like, well, sensor wasn't on.
It's a very extreme example, though.
It's a very extreme example, but for the purpose of explaining it, like, you can see the literal thing in front of you that it's a penalty. So why does it need technology to tell us that that's a jump start? Because we all have eyes and we can see it.
I bet it's because McLaren can then argue that, like, it probably says in the rules somewhere.
Yeah.
If the sensor gets triggered, then you get a penalty. The sensor hasn't triggered because it's broken or faulty. And McLaren are like, well, doesn't say anything about eyeballs in this rulings. It's ridiculous, don't get me wrong. But yeah, it was clear as day that he jumped.
I mean, rules are rules.
At the start and should have got a penalty. So funny as well that he joked about what he could do in the race after qualifying, and he said, well, you know, I could jump the start. And he quite literally did. And didn't get a penalty.
And got away with it. Maybe because he admitted that he was going to do it. That's allowed.
Maybe that's in the rules. Who knows? But Lando, very lucky boy to not get penalised for that. Next question. P1 Patreon member AMG Piper. Is it too soon to say Daniel Ricciardo is washed? Surely if he wants the Red Bull seat, he needs to be beating Yuki. Oh, God. This is not a good conversation if you're a Daniel Ricciardo fan. Nope. An embarrassing weekend, really, in Saudi for Danny Rick. Has to be beating Yuki. Completely agree with you, AMG Piper. If he wants to drive anything better than an RB, that's absolutely what he needs to do. And if anything, if he wants to keep his seat in an RB, he needs to be at least matching Yuki Tsunoda, if not beating. Look, perhaps he's got a terrible start to the season and he'll pick it up. We are 2 races in. But if this form continues, I'm very concerned about the future.
Why?
Let's not forget, he has got a great performance in him. Mexico last year, unbelievable. But what's going on at the moment here? Spinning on his own out of turn 1 as well. Yeah. I was like, oh no. That just kind of added insult to injury, didn't it? I was like, oh no, this is...
Yeah, because it sounds like he's had a very slow pit stop, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he was half a second off Yuki in qualifying, and then you think, oh, he's better in the races. So, he's was battling or way behind Logan Sargent, and then spins on his own. It was a performance at the kind of end of the McLaren Danny Rick era where you were just like, God, this isn't right. What is going on with him? And yeah, if it carries on, it's only race 2, but if it carries on, it's not a question of is he going to get the seat at Red Bull, because Perez is doing exactly what he needs to do. I know he did this last year, and we'll see. But at the moment, Perez is doing exactly what he needs to do. Daniel Ricciardo is more under threat of
Perez
losing his RB seat completely, particularly when we've seen what Lawson can do against Tsunoda and how he's performed against Tsunoda. So if Daniel does keep getting sort of beaten by Tsunoda, it's really not good.
Yeah, not a good start to the season, and we'll have to monitor this over the next few races. But then, I guess, learnings from last year, as you say, Tommy. Perez had a great start to the year, and then it all kind of went downhill. And then by the mid-season, we're like, oh, he's going to lose his seat.
Oh man,
just because
that was also after he said he will win the championship, or could win. Now he
Formula One goes and knee-jerk reactions and all that. So
and also the car is
a weekend to forget for Danny Rick for sure, and also for Tsunoda as well, because Tsunoda should have done so much better, but then kind of got caught up in that whole battle. K-Mag obviously doing that cheeky little legal overtake basically ruined his race completely.
It's almost like Yuki Tsunoda. It's like illegal for him to score points because something always happens. He almost always has the pace to be 10th, but it's a different reason every time. Last time, he couldn't pass and whatever, and got caught up and fell back. Then this time, you're like, oh, he's going to score points easy. Oh no, he's been passed by Magnussen illegally, and now he's getting blocked by him. And then it all kind of fell apart from there.
Certainly did.
What a fun
Let's
race.
move on now to biggest winner, driver or team. I wonder who we're going to go for this week. Mine is Oliver Behrman. Because of all the reasons listed above in this podcast, great drive, no one else deserves it more than him.
I'm going to go for Haas because they're now 6th in the constructors title, and it shows because wow. It's the conversation that we've had where top 5 teams, if no one, if it wasn't for Stroll crashing into a wall and then not being able to take his car back to the pits, we'd have another 10 lockout and no points. So that point for Haas, I'm not saying that other teams aren't going to score points, but it could be very important indeed come the end of the season.
Wow.
If they all continue to finish every single race. But we did have a couple of DNFs this time.
Gasly's car already, just like, nah, I'm good.
Gasly was like, nah, we're not going to have 3 races in a row where 20 drivers finish. Peace. Question from Tommy Gunn 86. Thoughts on the win?
Oh, wait.
We didn't do that.
Oh, you missed a question and then went biggest winner. I'm so confused.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just read that and I was like, wait, I haven't read that yet. And then we did biggest. Thoughts on the wind tunnel time sliding scale? It clearly hasn't worked. Screw that question.
That's what I thought you were doing. I thought you were just skipping.
Yeah, sorry. My brain. All right, calm.
Sorry.
We can cut that bit out. It's fine. Biggest loser then. Biggest loser. There's a few candidates.
Biggest loser. Okay, I would say lose. Actually, true. Lewis Hamilton. Lance Stroll. Maybe Gasly. But loser. I would say Mercedes.
That's for sure.
Lance Stroll has put himself under pressure again of being a bit rubbish. I know it's only one race, but
Kick having a dreadful time.
Gasly
Sargent
not even starting.
When his teammate had damage.
Gasly is now 21st in the title. I would actually nominate Sargent. The fact that with Ollie Behrman now getting a point, P21 is a possibility again. So man needs to get a point.
Gracious me. All right, I'm going to lock in.
Oh my god, he will get
Kick because they are literally nowhere. What's yours?
I will go for Lance Stroll. Yeah, because I think after the last race and how well he did, we were like, oh, he's so much better than last year, and then he's binned it. And it was also miles off Alonso in qualifying. So it's almost like we saw the good side of Stroll and then immediately after saw the bad side again.
What side will we see?
Or the normal side.
Australia. We will have to wait and see.
Let's
now reflect on our predictions that we made on Wednesday and see how we did. Now, coming into this, Tommy, do you remember how many points we both have?
No.
Okay, well, that's what we have to do. That's what we promised people. We said we're going to keep an eye on it. Is it 3-all or 4-all? I'm pretty sure
we are
drawing.
Yeah.
Yes. See, Tommy, we have to remember that because people ask for it.
Okay.
Right, we are drawing. That's all that matters right now. Biggest good surprise. Oh, I've been chefing. Nico Hulkenberg, thank you very much. That is, I thought it was done and dusted when he was kept out there on the medium tyres, and after his car breaking down in qualifying, he said, no, I am going to deliver a point for Haas and a point for me. Come on.
I went for Logan Sargent. And I even said, as soon as you did your next prediction, I was like, well, that's gone out the window. And yeah, sure did.
I love as well, you've literally gone for biggest good surprise Logan Sargent, and my guy has gone out of the top 20 in the Drivers' Championship because of you.
What do you mean?
Well, he was in the top 20 in the Drivers' Championship, and then Oliver Behrman came in and has now put him down to P21.
Well, he's not 21st. He's not 21st.
Oh, is he not?
No. Gasly's 21st, sadly.
Oh, because he's had the worst results. So where
he
is
has.
Logie?
So Logie's way up there in 19th.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Logie.
Sorry for the slander.
I don't think you get biggest slot now because he's actually improving last year.
Absolutely jog on. Biggest flop. I went for Logan Sargent. No. He should have beaten Albon. My guy's been squeezed into the wall by Magnussen, had damage, and he still finished 4 places behind his teammate. I'm cashing in on that flop.
Yeah, I don't understand how James Vowles is gonna keep defending him if it's going like this. Biggest flop, I went for Lewis Hamilton, which, yeah, definitely he was the worst of the best. Just not a good weekend at all for Hamilton, really.
Have it ever been?
Certainly was not.
Size the new cars.
Flop point, Tommy. Congrats. Pole position. I went for Charles Leclerc. Didn't happen. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. All right, predict him in pole again.
And I also went for Charles Leclerc. No.
You bought into that hype train, and it did not leave the station. Our top 3 then. In 3rd position, Perez. No, it was 2nd.
You were so confident.
I forgot. How did I think it was 3rd? I was thinking of. Quali. What am I doing? I've just celebrated.
Amazing.
I forgot. Was not. Congratulations on that flop point, Tommy. Congrats. Pole position. I went for Charles Leclerc. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. All right, predict him in pole again.
Let's see.
And I also went for Charles Leclerc. No.
You bought into that hype train, and it did not leave the station. Our top 3 then. In 3rd position, Perez. No, it was 2nd.
You were so confident.
I forgot. How did I think it was 3rd? I was thinking of. Quali. What am I doing? I've just celebrated.
Amazing clip.
That is wild. How have I forgotten Perez finished 2nd? That is crazy. Damn it. I literally came into thinking, I got a point for top 3 because obviously Perez finished 3rd. No, that was in quali. All right, cool. 0 points. You?
I went for Carlos Sainz and he didn't even do the race.
Wild.
So.
Yeah, he didn't even do the race. In 2nd, I went for Verstappen. Don't care.
P2, I went for Charles Leclerc, which you thought he was 2nd, but he wasn't. He was 3rd.
Which is great. And then 1st, I went for Charles Leclerc because I'm an imbecile.
And I went for Max Verstappen because I'm not an imbecile.
Yeah, well done, mate. Congratulations. Hope you're happy. You're just going to win by going Max first.
So that's currently level then?
Yep, still level, but we still got one crazy prediction, Tommy. Relax. There will be at least 2 forms of safety car. Now, let's discuss this. Was the virtual safety car flown for at least 0.1 of a second, and then they changed it to safety car? I'm going to say yes.
No, I can't have that one.
Half a point. All right, cool.
No
Tommy?
points. Mine has to get a point. And
that's really disgraceful. You just copied me. You copied me. You saw the Nico Hulkenberg hype train. You saw biggest good surprise, and you went, yeah. And to be fair, you've nailed it. Congratulations.
Yeah. Enjoy the money. So
I thought that I gained a point as well now. I forgot you did that. That's really irritated me now. And the 3 crazy predictions from you wonderful lot. Lozzie Dog, one of the McLaren boys on the podium.
No, Piastri was close.
Yeah, we actually didn't even mention Piastri. Piastri absolutely cooked this weekend. Just finishing 4th. Couldn't get past Hamilton to save his life, but that's fine. I don't think he would.
Oh, that was actually going to be my rant about because we didn't. I was going to mention about.
Yeah, you teed up a rant and you never ever ranted.
It's because the question wasn't used in the end. But
okay. Go on, just rant. Go on, Tommy.
But basically, while it was hilarious to watch Kevin Magnussen I couldn't think, whilst watching that happen, no one able to get past a Haas for the second time in 2 races, and also watching Oscar Piastri, even with DRS, unable to pass Lewis Hamilton. Just made me depressingly think how Formula One baited us so much with these new rules. It's so easy to overtake, and it's just falling like exactly the same way every other rule has done, where it starts off really good, and then the F1 engineers have to ruin it, and now it's really hard to overtake again. And it's very frustrating. You know, it's something Ollie Behrman actually mentioned, that he was like, he got behind another car and was like, wow, this is difficult compared to Formula 2. And that's depressing.
It really is, but that's not the note we want to leave the podcast on. But yes, I do agree that it is a shame.
It's
because,
very annoying.
you know, a couple of years ago, at this very track, we had one of the greatest fights for the lead again with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. They were both quick in different parts of the track.
Yeah, we're like, oh my god,
chicken.
it's so good. They can pass and repass.
I'm not going to have a go at F1 because F1 did clearly create regulations at the beginning of 22 that worked.
And then Mercedes ruined it because they made a so bad car.
And then the F1 teams went, nah, bruv. I want to make sure that the wake is as wakey as possible coming off the rear end of my car or our car, to ensure that the car behind can't overtake us. It's Formula 1 teams that are ruining this, and F1 need to make even tighter, stricter regulations to stop them from messing up with the air. Spec series, or just use the F2 cars? Well, let's not open up that box, shall we? Okay, what else have we got for crazy predictions? All that jazz. Stroll on the podium. Oops. And Realm Copier, a driver will win their first ever Grand Prix. Yes, Max Verstappen has won his 56th first Grand Prix of his career. Congratulations.
Wait, you're reading out the wrong predictions there. That was from a
so
podcast
attached.
a while ago. Yeah.
It was so attached. Right. Dennis, a Merc engine blows up. No. Sir Bacon the Sixth, V-Carb double points finish. Absolutely not. They got a whopping 0 points. So congratulations to them. And that pretty much sums up this chaotic Saudi Arabian Grand Prix podcast, Tommy. What are your final thoughts?
It was
that.
Oh, here we go. Tommy should be in bed. It is 9 p.m.
At least there's some spice in driver ratings for a change. So look forward to that one.
Stay tuned for
compared
driver
to the last race where nothing happened. So there's actually things to be discussed and opinions to have. So can't wait to get cancelled for that one. Bring it on.
Very surprised that you didn't just bring up Fernando Alonso scoring a very solid P5, because I thought that would be a good opportunity for you to shout and rave about your boy and the fact that Aston Martin didn't look as bad as they did in Bahrain race trim. So good stuff for Aston Martin. And actually as well, didn't even mention, Ocon finished 13th. What a great drive. Didn't even finish last. So Alpine clearly making steps forward, even though he still was a lap down. But that's Max Verstappen for you.
He's going to be miles ahead of Gasly in the championship. They're not going to be happy about that.
I also really enjoyed as well, just to clarify anyone that still has confusion about it, that the race classification gaps are with penalties applied, because everyone was seeing that Leclerc finished 4.996 or whatever it was seconds behind, and was like, well, how's he not got second then? So he finished just under 10 seconds behind, and the 5 seconds was applied. So that's just to clarify that one for anyone that was wondering why Leclerc.
But you definitely didn't think Paris was third.
That's true. Maybe that's what happened there. Maybe that is what's, the confusion that's happened here is due to that and the amount of people messaging me about it. Okay, that is it. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciate everyone for turning up to the Twitch watch-alongs and for supporting our content as always. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Well, we'll see you before then. We've got content, we've got content to make. But the next race is in Australia, a couple of weeks' time. We will probably look quite tired because it's an early one. But we're not going to complain. And it's a Sunday. It's the first Sunday race of the year. We've got this. I can't believe it's Saturday today. It's still, I can't get my head around it.
We've not heard the Dutch national anthem on a Sunday yet. There's something to think about.
That's a reason to tune in a couple of weeks for the third race of 24 this year.
Actually true.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I've heard it on Saturday. Time for
promise it's going to get better soon.
that will be high. Time. Go away. I don't want anything about that. Go away. And then the last thing. The race. Let's see if they keep doing washed stuff. Max Verstappen's threat to Red Bull warning F1 team. Let's see how washed up opinions these are. Oh. It's super washed because we don't even hear anything.
Serenity on track, constant chaos off it. Red Bull is being pulled apart at the seams by a war for control that has triggered a major warning from Max Verstappen. Wins in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia have made for the perfect start to Red Bull's season and Verstappen's bid for a 4th consecutive title. But this dominant dream team risks being destroyed from within. What started as Christian Horner's personal controversy regarding his behaviour towards a female member of staff.
What did he do? Please tell me.
Has snowballed drastically since the allegations, and
what kind of fuck snowball?
A subsequent Red Bull investigation became public. Max Verstappen didn't really react to any of that, but the latest twist in a vicious struggle for power at Red Bull has now grabbed his attention. Just a couple of days after Verstappen had quite emphatically dismissed the prospect that Red Bull's dramas could lead to his early exit from the team, his tone changed dramatically. Which all leads to one simple question with a very complex answer. What the hell is going on at Red Bull?
Nothing.
The catalyst for Red Bull's latest crisis escalation is a matter involving Helmut Marko that could yet lead to his exit despite him saying he'll continue for now. On race day in Jeddah, Marko had talks with Red Bull executive Oliver Mintzlaff, which ended with Marko declaring he will continue less than 24 hours after he indicated he might face a suspension or just walk away from the team. But Marko added the caveat that calm must be restored, and right now that is not guaranteed. So at best, this is papering over the cracks. Marko is a long-serving special advisor who wields massive influence on Red Bull Racing and was effectively the late Dietrich Mateschitz' man on the ground, having been involved in Red Bull's motorsport activities for decades. He's close to the Verstappens and historically to the Austrian side of Red Bull by dint of that Mateschitz relationship. But since company co-founder Mateschitz's death in late 2022, there has been a consistent belief that Marko has a strained relationship with the new leadership he's been forced to report to. His power has not been entirely stripped away, but there's an accountability that he never seemed subjected to before. Red Bull's F1 teams now fall under the remit of Mintzlaff, who Marko met with in Saudi Arabia amid suggestions Marko was being probed by Red Bull GmbH in relation to leaked information. Exactly what Red Bull's parent company is or was concerned by is still unclear. We know that's vague, but there's been an awful lot of speculation about this and immense leakage from Red Bull in recent weeks. Automatically, the assumption is this relates to the explosive anonymous sharing of alleged evidence from the investigation into Horner just 24 hours after Red Bull had announced the grievance had been dismissed. Marko denies this, but there are other things too, like various details emerging either side of that investigation and suggestions that Red Bull's current engine partner Honda and future partner Ford are not happy either. We know Marko talks freely on and off the record to various people in F1, including the media. He always has, often to Red Bull's irritation. Despite his status, Marko isn't considered by Red Bull to be an official spokesperson. If Horner or Red Bull believe Marko has acted out of line or been involved in Horner's recent scrutiny, turning the spotlight back on him could be a form of retribution. And when there's so much more going on in the background, it doesn't sound...
What? Man, there's so much talk and nothing
like
to
all
show.
of this can just be swept aside by one amicable conversation in Jeddah.
What is it? It's a credit card.
Yeah, go away. On this wash.
Remember, it's a credit card.
Visste du att det kan finnas en koppling mellan munhälsa och ditt hjärta? Philips Sonicare pressar tandkräm mellan tänderna för en djup och skonsam rengöring. Samma borstning, 20 gånger mer effektivt. Philips, there's always a way to make life better.
Yeah, it is.
Marko's position at Red Bull being called into question went down extremely badly with Verstappen. In the post-qualifying press conference after scoring pole in Jeddah, Verstappen was asked about the prospect of it being Marko's final race. At that moment, Verstappen wouldn't have seen or heard Marko's initial interview with ORF, in which he had hinted he could be departing. Verstappen probably wasn't even aware that interview had happened, but his answer showed that this has been developing behind the scenes for long enough for Verstappen to already be aware something is amiss, and to not only have
So what did they say? Come on, tell me, what did he say?
Formed an opinion on it, but to have apparently shared his concerns with Red Bull. Verstappen strongly indicated he would consider his own future if Marko were to leave, and reiterated that multiple times in a lengthy answer and in various TV interviews afterwards. He described his loyalty
so washed
to Marko as very big, and said he has always made it clear Marko is an important part in my decision making.
So what warning is he doing? I mean,
Verstappen's under contract with Red Bull until the end of 2028. That deal is bound to have exit clauses, but the main thing for Red Bull is to ensure he wants to stick around. Unsurprisingly, the three-time world champion is concerned by the prospect of losing what he calls such an important pillar of Red Bull. He said that would be not good for my situation, and even went as far as declaring Helmut has to stay. Though Marko says he is for now.
Red Bull's warning. I mean, what kind of Red Bull warning have? Oh my god.
Now, the significance of this Verstappen intervention is massive. It is the first time that Verstappen has indicated his place at Red Bull could be influenced by a matter involving someone else. His powerful statement of support also contrasted sharply with the qualified comments Max made about Horner in Bahrain when asked if he still had faith in his leadership. And before this all kicked off in Saudi, Verstappen had opted not to counter his father's criticism of Horner. He didn't explicitly side with Jos, but did say he isn't a liar, and certainly didn't distance himself meaningfully from the views Jos expressed. Horner insists his relationship with Verstappen is fine and that there's no tension inside the team. But Verstappen has still positioned Marko and what happens to him as a much bigger factor in Verstappen's own thought process than Horner's fate. And it may well be that Verstappen's future is intertwined with Marko's on a contractual basis, not just because of a personal loyalty, because it has been rumoured that Verstappen would be free to leave Red Bull if Marko left. In the
So why would the threat? I mean, they should know. If all this was true, they should know this.
Complex power struggle plaguing both Red Bull's team and its parent company, Verstappen has avoided explicitly siding with either warring faction. But we can at least put the Verstappen camp firmly alongside Marko. The question is whether that puts them directly up against anybody else. How far are they willing to take this? Will it be as simple as if Marko goes, Max goes, and does that by extension force Red Bull to decide between Verstappen and Horner? That Marko seemingly ended up in the firing line is another twist in a contorted internal situation at Red Bull which predates Horner's scandal. The tensions with Mintslav were well known, but by the end of last year, the relationship between Marko and Horner seemed to have broken down as well. When Marko extended his Red Bull contract in early 2024, it was interpreted as a successful attempt to realign himself with Mintslav. This positioned Austria against Horner, with the Verstappens joining them too, but who knows where Marko stands now. It might be that there is no major grudge with Mintslav and that Horner versus Marko and Horner versus Mintslav are the real quarrels. Horner stated somewhat unconvincingly after the race that his relationship with Marko is no issue, though he admitted he's always outspoken, but that's Helmut. Horner has Red Bull's majority shareholding Uvidya family in his corner and wants backing as the single senior spearhead of Red Bull's motorsport activities, which would effectively sideline Mintslav and Marko and in return ensure the Thai side of Red Bull isn't frozen out by Austria exerting more control. The Uvidyas and Mintslav were due to meet in Dubai the day after the Jeddah race. If Horner gets the backing he seeks, then Mintslav may just have to fall in line. And Horner's claim that both Mintslav and another Red Bull executive, Franz Vaclavic, who was also in Jeddah, have been very supportive. Which brings us back to questioning whether calm can really be restored if everyone involved in all this infighting remains in place. What
a lot of infighting, sure.
happens to Marko in that case, and, as he made so painfully clear, how that impacts Verstappen too. Verstappen said after winning in Jeddah that what matters is everyone keeps the peace, and a complete reconciliation to all this can't be completely ruled out. But it seems desperately unlikely, and even if we give Red Bull the benefit of the doubt that the Saudi weekend ended with a truce of some kind, it's clear that an effort must be made to just manage hostilities, and that is a pretty weak foundation. It also doesn't
From what point of view, the Mercedes or Ferrari?
Doesn't change the fact that Marko walking away eventually and the Verstappens plotting a sensational move elsewhere in retaliation seems like a less far-fetched prospect now. especially if Red Bull feels the risk of Verstappen walking away is one it's happy to take, given it would ease a significant amount of tension one way or another and free up a significant amount of money, given Verstappen's on a lucrative salary. In response to Verstappen suggesting he'd leave if Marco did, Horner even said no individual is bigger than the team, and anybody who doesn't want to be at Red Bull can't be forced to stay, including Verstappen. This could be the first step towards calling Verstappen's bluff, especially as Horner reckons 16 drivers want a Red Bull seat for 2025 already. It would be a bold gambit for Red Bull and Horner to believe they could withstand losing a driver of Verstappen's calibre, especially as there could be knock-on effects. What do senior technical figures like Adrian Newey and Pierre Vacher make of all this? If what we're hearing is correct, Newey's not particularly impressed, and certainly not firmly in Horner's corner. So should we start taking the prospect of Verstappen moving to Mercedes, or at least looking for an exit strategy of some kind, more seriously? Mercedes has been the most commonly linked as a possible shock alternative. In Saudi Arabia, George Russell said if any team had a chance to sign Max, they would 100% be taking it, while Ferrari-bound Lewis Hamilton said he is sure Max is on the list at Mercedes. Mercedes coveted Verstappen a decade ago when he was just a teenage Formula 3 prodigy, and only lost out to Red Bull because Red Bull had a Toro Rosso F1 race seat it could offer Verstappen immediately. Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff hasn't exactly ruled out making a move now, even saying in Saudi he would love to have him. Hamilton suggested it wouldn't make sense for Verstappen to leave Red Bull given he currently has the best car, and that is a sound argument. Assuming Verstappen could get out of his Red Bull contract for 2025 to replace Hamilton, why would he trade what he has now for a backward step to a team that has won just one Grand Prix since the start of these new regulations in 2022? True. Horner claims he can't see a reason why Verstappen would want to step out of Red Bull, and Verstappen had already admitted, well before the Marco story took hold, that as long as we perform, there's no reason to leave. But the toxic situation at Red Bull could be the kind of extraordinary circumstances that give Verstappen that.
I mean, the only toxic is the media. The media. Holy shit, they are. I mean, they are keeping this alive. Maybe get paid from Toto Wolff, or maybe just Verstappen to keep this story alive.
And it might not be for 2025. It could be for 2026 and the start of the new car and engine rules. That would let Verstappen wring every last bit of success out of his Red Bull career this year and next before the team risks collapsing on itself. It's a prospect with at least some merit, and one that Verstappen hasn't explicitly ruled out, even though he's been given plenty of chances to do that. One thing we can't allow to pass unaddressed in bringing you up to date with Red Bull's latest week of woe is the new development in the case that brought all of this to the fore. Red Bull Racing has suspended with pay the female member of staff who made the complaint against Horner. It hasn't said why, but such action implies it's either a retaliation, which is how a lot of worried observers see it, or because she has committed specific wrongdoing. The word in
Oh shit, could she be in the wrong and Christian Horner be in the right? Man. That's not
Audi was that the investigation concluded she had been a dishonest witness. Red Bull will need to back that up properly if the suspension is to become a full dismissal. As we make this video, the situation was still uncertain, as the complainant's window to appeal the outcome of the investigation was still open. But as many people in F1 have noted, it means the company has already taken stricter action against her than it did Horner, who was never suspended and was allowed to continue.
I mean, who's in the wrong? I mean, like, if he wasn't in the wrong, why should they punish him?
Front and centre in his very public roles while the investigation took place. Given the lack of transparency around the whole thing, this has gone down very poorly, as has a defiant stance.
You mean transparent by the media also?
Horner. He's faced down a lot of questions about the lack of transparency through this process, the impact of all the scrutiny, and what's happened to the member of staff who made the allegation, and said very little. Horner has publicly positioned himself for the first time as having suffered through this very trying period, and having previously claimed it was business as normal, has now invoked his family, his wife and his children, and suggested rivals in F1 are trying to take advantage. In what has been seen as playing the victim, Horner called for the intrusion into his personal life and his family.
Play the victim. I mean, is that a bad thing? Didn't the woman play the victim card? Was that a bad thing? Surely not. Why should that be bad?
family to stop. But many have pointed out that he was the one who arrived hand in hand with his wife Jerry in Bahrain and Will.
God damn it, that was weird. I mean, that you... Okay, sure. The only thing I would say the race have something right with is this.
He had Netflix cameras following him closely in Jeddah. His most common answers have been variants of "it's time to move on." But it's not so simple. Many are struggling to just let it go and take everything he and Red Bull say
from the media or Red Bull
on trust. And as different fires keep flaring up before the story even has half a chance of dying down, Horner's unlikely to get his wish anytime soon.
Oh, so you will keep talking about it. That's nice to hear. God damn it. Go away. I think that's it. That's everything. Let's see, is there anything? Not really. Let's see what's left. We are soon done with this wall. Did I pick up? No, I didn't. God damn it. Can we? But yeah. I don't think. I mean. First of all, Max go into Mercedes. That's weird. He's in a Red Bull and he for some reason want to go to Mercedes. And then all the stuff about... Let's see. Oh, I clicked away from that, but... Man, Hamlet Mark and all the... Man, there's a lot of stuff that I think... Man, I feel it feels so much that Mercedes tries the hardest to make Red Bull fall because they can't make a good car. We can take this also. Let's see what more. Man, that's... I feel like they are taking the stuff so out of proportion. Or the proportion. Oh, what the fuck do you say? To make a bigger deal of the problems. Than it actually is. At least it feels like that. Especially from the media. It's like, wow. They're really going for it. So should we just finish the wall and then we are done? Yeah. Finish the wall. Man, it was a long time ago when I was here last time. Let's see. Maybe room this also. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Chicken. Oh, we can place down one more torch and then we can quit. Yeah, this is done. And now it's just time for doing a lot of mining. Or can we? No. Or you can. Let's see if I can actually. Oh, yep. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can. There, yeah, and here we end it. And that was all that reaction. Let's see. Do it say when next Formula 1 race is? March 22. It's 11 in 11 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Or 12. Well, it's 11 plus this day. But until then,